planning is so important, and it's you know, it's hard to get behind because people don't like to do it. A lot of people don't like to do it, but it's absolutely critical to being able to manage a crisis. And you know, it's funny, I always say we don't like to plan, and then one of my military friends said, yeah, but you guys at the CIA are great planners. If you're planning an operation, you plan it down to the, you know, the minutest step you're going to take to protect your sources. And I said, you know, that's true. We do a lot of planning. So not entirely true that I hate planning, I guess. Then you've got, in the crisis itself, whatever your response is to that crisis, to handle what's going on and get through that crisis. Then finally, at the end comes the lessons learned and the post-crisis planning, which I will talk about a little bit more, but I think this is a place where a lot of organizations fall down. And communication, super important, should be throughout all stages of that crisis. Should be going on. And when I say communication, both internal and external as necessary. No silver bullets to deal with these kinds of situations and get ahead of them. But I think these are some of the things that can happen. Leadership from the top, I think this is really important. And you know, I hate to keep harping on it, but the planning is just so important. And if the planning function is delegated to some staff that's pretty low, and the CEO or the president or the, you know, whoever's in charge, the big director, doesn't personally get involved in making it happen, people read that as a signal. Like, oh, CEO doesn't care about this. Why do I need to care about it? And I'm sure some of you have been in that situation where you see this announcement that you've got to, you know, participate in this, you know, crisis response exercise or go to yet another planning meeting for it, and you just go, oh God, I don't want to do that. I got more important stuff to do. And you ask one of your underlings to go, or you skip it. And if the CEO is sitting in the room, somehow attendance gets a little better, I've found. So, or if the CEO, you know, at least follows up and asks questions about it and pays attention to it, people get involved. That to me just screams out for you really have to test it. Because in some crises, you don't have time to try to figure out who's in charge. And if no one person's in charge, you have different people calling, you know, HR might say, we've got these people who are missing, and they're telling, I don't know who they're telling, the chief operating officer, but whoever's in charge of the emergency action team doesn't know that either. Information goes to different areas, and there's no one entity collecting that information if you haven't practiced that. Quite often the person who's in charge is the chief operating officer, but you know, it's just really important you test it. Otherwise it will not work. And again, you need a whole of organization response. In other words, again, you need to have rehearsed this and figured out who has to be involved in that crisis response, and somebody needs to be in charge. And you have to keep updating that plan, because if you haven't looked at it for 3 years and the crisis hits, you can guarantee there have been some organizational changes. People have changed, maybe the departments have changed, so keeping it up to date, really critical. And think about this when I know some of you may have to deal with regulators. When the crisis hits, it's nice to have some other fingerprints on it, that you actually, when Congress is screaming about how dare you have engaged in this program, and I'm thinking of things like the rendition program, they were briefed on that program. they were briefed on it. They sometimes forget they were briefed on it, but they were briefed on it. And so, you know, we feel okay because, you know, and whenever you're doing espionage, you're in the, you know, you're as General Hayden used to say, you got white chalk on your cleats because you're right sometimes in the margins. But we have a lot of lawyers who make sure, we work closely with Department of Justice to make sure we are legally in the clear. Now, what sometimes happens is the Justice Department, when the administrations change, the people in justice change, and their interpretations of law sometimes change. That also happens. So, but we really try not to, again, we get other people's fingerprints on this stuff. So, and I think that's a good lesson for you who are in regulated industries. You know, most people hate the regulators, but, you know, they can help you.